Welcome, everyone. We have a great crowd tonight. National Junior Honor Society. I think somebody might not be muted.
I just did. Sorry.
We had one of our largest groups in recent memory this year, and I don't know if do you have anything you want to say other than they're going to be recognized differently. Instead of individually tonight, Student Council and National Junior Honor Society members will be presenting to the board every month this year. So we'll get to know them a little bit more intimately, individually throughout the year, but their names are all listed, and they had a fabulous ceremony last week, still a little socially distanced. However, it was so nice to be in person as opposed to last year on Zoom. So we're celebrating that. So congratulations to all of our National Honor Society and Junior Honor Society inductees.
Excellent.
Am I not getting
I'm not sure
sound?
I'm hearing.
I turned it on. It wasn't on at first.
Okay, let me find out.
I didn't have it on at the beginning or during the pledge.
Are we good?
I
now?
think we are.
Okay.
I'm not seeing anything in the,
Yeah, I haven't
Okay.
seen any
We do have
questions.
Oh, camera.
oh, my camera's not on. Not that anyone wants that. Okay. All right, now the Oak Prairie Junior High cross country team.
All right. I know Ms. Forkesh is going to introduce them. Is this for the Chicago Marathon? They ran the marathon? It may have felt like that.
Pushing our students this year. No. I am so excited to introduce you guys, members of our cross-country team. I have Mr. Bond here, and I'd like to recognize Mr. Bond and Ms. Welcome as the coaches. Extremely dedicated to the kids and their progress this year. This team started practicing in August before school even started, and they were one of the few people in the parking lot early August mornings when I'd be there, and I'd peek out my window and I'd see them start practice, and they really were a dedicated group of individuals. So I'm excited to have Mr. Bond here to talk a little bit about their season and recognize their accomplishments here.
All right. I'm Henry Fun. I teach 7th grade reading and language arts, and I'm also the cross-country coach for the last 14 years. And so what I'll do is I'll introduce them, and they can stand up. We have 31 kids on the team this year, and I'm only going to have 14 up here. Every single one showed up. We had 7 boys and 7 girls qualify for the state. But boy, I should say all 31 kids are part of their success, because if the 31th kid is pushing the 30th kid, and the 30th kid is pushing the 29th kid, all the way up, they're all part of the success. So before I'll say their names, and they may stand up, and the boys who qualified, they ran last Saturday in Bloomington. They are the 9th team out of the last 14 years to qualify for the state meet. And the girls, they were the 8th time in the last 14 years to qualify for the state. So let's go ahead. When I say your name, stand up. This one, the first one, she broke her foot, I think, maybe during the race.
No.
Barrett. Next is Bella Ryan, a 7th grader. And then we had 5 6th graders on the team. We'll wait and we can applaud at the end. How about that, Joe? Leah Corrigan, stand up. Amelia Corrigan. Go ahead and stay standing up. Riley Repoach, Sydney Klein, and Gracie Payne. There you go. So this is the 7th grade girls that ran. So let's go ahead and give them applause. We'll have the boys. Henry Ising, Joe Szarski, Andrew McIntyre, Dave Zinkowski, Jacob Marita, Jonah Brownlee, and Isaac Grimm. I started with me in June. We ran at Delaware Park, and then like I said, we start practice at the beginning of August, and this is an 11-week season, one of the longest athletic seasons in Oak Prairie. So anyway, thank you for having us here.
Very good. Congratulations, and great to see many, I'll also call them underclassmen, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to next year and getting better and doing it again all again next fall. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and do the other do our principals recognition, and then we'll take a short break and let you guys get out of here.
So we are coming up on Principal Appreciation Week. And I think this year, we said some of these same things last year. We could say this about our teachers. We could say this about a number of staff. But I will always say that some of the hardest working people end up being the principals, and they get the least praise and probably the most pounding. COVID has been a challenge for every student, every parent, every staff member. The ones who have had to implement so many ever-changing guidelines and criteria and just keeping everyone safe have been our 4 principals. So I want to make sure that we introduce all 4 of them. They are all here. We have at Walsh, Miss Teresa Martin. Give a wave to everybody. And for Reed, we have Kathy Slee. And the L's. For Ludwig, we have Lisa Light. And Oak Prairie, Ms. Sue Forecast. I can't say enough. I think the most recent example, we really started the year knowing that we were not going to be able to get our students in the cafeteria 6 feet apart, which meant that we knew we would have some more exclusions from school because of close contact during lunch. We just didn't see any way to do it. And as the year got started, we got into our routines. The principal saw a need to go back to the drawing board. How can we do this to keep more kids in school so they're not getting excluded because of a close contact at lunch? And I'm very proud to say, because of their efforts, and Mrs. Forecast tried at the junior high. I don't want to leave her out because she has racked her brains mightily. It's just too many students in that space for the junior high. But each of our principals found a way, as of today, kindergarten through 5th grade, to socially distance or physically distance our students so that we should not have additional exclusions because of lunch. That is huge for keeping our kids in school. It's a big deal. So that in itself, thank you for reworking your plans again and again and again and making it work. We want to keep the kids in school, and you're the reason we're able to do it. So thank you to all of our principals. And the last group to recognize, it's National School Lunch Week in October. And I just want to call attention in the board book, we do have all of our food service staff recognized. We sent something out about a week ago in district and wanted to publicly recognize them for, they also last year, for the past 18 months, have been doing lunch in a very different way continuously. We've had a lot of different plans. They keep rolling with it and bringing their own creativity, and the food's great, by the way. So I encourage you to try it sometime. So we really appreciate and celebrate our food service staff that keep us, our bellies full and our hearts healthy. So thank you to them.
Very good. All right, so again, thank you for taking time this evening to come join us. Allowing us to celebrate your students and their accomplishments, and helping us recognize our principals. So at this time, we're going to move on to our rest of our meeting, and you're welcome to stay. But if you would like to leave, this is the time to do so. Thank you.
The yellow piece of paper.
Can you I don't think I am in the, yeah.
Good job, guys.
I saw that and it went in and out of my mind.
Oh,
I saw you.
It was like the worst time.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Whatever.
Oh, yeah,
That's
just
not
right
now.
there. Yeah, sorry. I thought you were.
Yeah, girls, get up there for a picture. You want a picture? Cross country, stay for a picture real quick.
Oh. Cross country speak.
They want to get a picture up front. Yeah, sorry.
What? Yeah, I know.
I don't know if Adriana is. Oh, yeah, there's.
No, Mrs. Forecast. Get a picture.
There you go.
This forecast, are you getting in?
Did Jake have a good time at homecoming? I saw him at
Beyond a good time. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
quickly. And I took a picture of him and Emmy with Emmy's phone. And
She refuses to let me see it.
she will not give it to me. She doesn't like herself in
I know. I said, come on, I asked for one thing. I wanted a picture of the two of you
it.
and the three of you. And they wouldn't give it to me.
She's a pistol.
Oh, for sure. I had to drive by. I just wanted to see it.
You know what?
It was
Emmy
incredible.
said, having it outside, although that whole week, the comments on social media, like, you know, with the weather and the she had a I felt like I was, you know, get a big concert.
Well, that's. It's not easy.
So.
It was, the whole week was really nice.
Kudos to all the efforts, really.
Oh, we were at dinner that night. Yeah.
We were too.
It was everybody.
I'm also not used to that being on the day 19. Just trying to, or working like that.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't on the pickup.
Well, I heard Bulgaris was absolutely insane. Jenny said there were 400 kids there.
Yeah.
Oh, at some party.
Have you ever seen them?
No.
Oh, is this the homecoming party?
Yeah, the pictures.
At the, by the golf course?
Yes.
Yes.
I heard about it.
I came home. I told my husband. I took pictures and videos.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever.
All right. I'm gonna ask that we go out of order.
Yeah, that was my mistake.
Yeah.
Yes, that-
And make a quick change to the agenda and move item 8 to the next portion of our agenda, which is the Oak Prairie Junior High student report. So if we could have those students.
All right, I've got members of actually both NJ and student council there on both groups with us tonight. Gabby packed down in the end, Anaheim in the middle, and Maya Van Lindgren here. And they are just gonna give a little bit report, a short report out to each of you so that you can have a good sense of what's been going on at Oak Prairie during the first quarter.
And if they want to come up, if you take turns using the microphone, they'll be able to hear on the Zoom. I don't know if they'll be able to hear unless you use the microphone.
You guys wanna, well, this is getting hot.
Take You got all dressed up. You look
Yeah.
great. You might as well, you're seen, now you're
Absolutely.
heard.
There you go.
We have 70 students in student council, and we have had 4 full meetings and 5 committee meetings.
One sponsored event we did was from September 13th through the 17th. Through that week, anyone who donated $1 was able to wear any type of hat they wanted. We had some themes like wearing a homemade hat or any type of theme hat won a prize. In total, we raised $843 and were able to give a child a hat signed by their favorite celebrity. In addition to Caps for Kids, on September 24th, we encouraged everyone to wear yellow and gold for Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month.
For the whole month of September, Oak Prairie had a June drive. This is more of a unique drive because we are not just asking for new things. We're asking for old pair of jeans that you no longer use. We helped raise 150 pairs of jeans that eventually turned into insulation for low-income housing.
For October, we are collecting brand new socks for the less fortunate. All of the brand new socks will go to the people who need them in Will County. There are more than just socks that are also important. Underwear, hats, and gloves are also needed. All of these materials are put into a bag and passed out to the less fortunate by United Way.
On October 29th, we will have Frightfest, an outdoor Halloween dance. This will be the first big event we had since quarantine. This dance will have a haunted classroom, which high school students and community members will volunteer to help with the spooky jump scares. There will be an outdoor dance floor and concession stand, which all money will go to student council to host more events and fix the school. Before the dance ends, we will have a costume contest for the best costume, and the top 5 winners will get a prize.
In the beginning of October, we all signed a pledge to be drug-free. These slips were stapled together and hung in the cafeteria for all the students and cafeteria helpers to see. Next week, we are having special days during the week and dressing up to spread awareness. We are also having an assembly with DEA, which stands for Drug Enforcement Administration.
This is what has been happening for the past 2 months in student council. Student council has also helped people be more social and be a better person for themselves.
Thank you. Thank you, girls. Well, thank you. That sounds, that's a lot of work. You're actually gotten done already, a number of drives and things. So that's really awesome work to already be done already through the first quarter. So thanks for getting to it. All right.
And I don't believe we have an AFT report.
Yeah, so there's no AFT report. So we'll go back now to item 6, and those are our presentations. Again, you're welcome to stay, but if you want to leave at this point.
Yeah, well, that's good.
And again, thank you so much for coming out and joining us tonight.
This is a great idea. I love it.
I love it.
No, not that they're I mean. No. It's a great idea to have them.
I liked it too.
That
Yes.
came from Mrs. Forecast. That was
That was
100%
awesome.
her
I
idea.
think that's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you. That was
Mrs.
great.
Forcash, I was just thinking as they were talking about the drives. I mean, I'm assuming all the schools, I don't know, do all the schools do drives? I mean, I wouldn't mind as a board member to get that information. You know, and so if I chose to donate.
You asked for, you can end up on my newsletter and then you're gonna get it.
Oh, no. I do get so I do get the newsletter. Is that that's the advertisement portion of it? Okay, then cool. All right, very good. Thank you.
All right. Okay, secured entrance designs.
Yep.
Sure.
Dave and Eli.
All right, so we are joined this evening virtually by representatives from DLA to continue the discussion that we started and have been carrying on now, talking about our secured entrances and the renovations that are going to be happening. So they're going to run through some designs that are more than 25% of the way complete. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to DLA to walk through a presentation and explain sort of where we're at this point.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Peter with DLA Architects. I'm a project architect and associate principal at the firm. And we're going to go a little out of order today. I know that Rich Kosek, our designer, is going to hop on and join us. But in the meantime, we're going to, if you can, flip to the end of the slide deck, and we'll just talk overall schedule real quick. So let me know if you guys can do that when you're looking at the schedule, and I'll run us through where we're at today.
Did you see that, Rich?
Yeah, somebody needs access.
Okay. Peter, we are there, and I'll just go to whichever slide you tell me to go to throughout. We're not going to broadcast it, but it is on the screen in the meeting room.
Okay, so we're at the very last slide, the linear schedule. So if you guys see that green vertical line, October 19th, that's where we're at today. And we put the schedule together to kind of highlight where we are in the process and where we're going. So a lot of work has been done already to get to this point. And we thought we'd just kind of lay it out just to see what the process is looking like. So we started December 5th of 2020, looking at the 5-year plan, just getting that process started. Revisiting the original 10-year plan we put together years ago and updating what had been done to the facilities and what still needs to be done. And that culminated on May 10th, a presentation to the facility assessment update and the 5-year plan. So basically, that being the kickoff, the June 15th concept design was approved at that board meeting. And then we immediately shot into what we call schematic design. So at the bottom there, you'll see all these different periods that represent the design and construction schedule: schematic design, design development, construction documents, bidding, pre-construction, and construction. So that's kind of where we're going all the way through to the end of next year, 2022, with construction ending. So far, just with the administration, we've had a total of 4 different design meetings, and it's been great working with them, the principals and the district administration. It's really been great to review the designs and go over all the requirements for these buildings. And so that kind of leads us to where we're going. Right now, we have the site surveys and soil borings that are taking place right now.
Uh-oh. We lost him.
Bill, I think we lost him.
You lost Peter, okay. All right. So we're at soil borings, which is good. Which the soil borings are going to be happening actually in the next few days, end of the week. And that's where they, bore holes throughout the site just to test the soil, the bearing capacity of the soil. Then beyond that, we have our, construction documents. I think Peter covered that, and we're anticipating being out to bid in January. And then construction hopefully starting when the weather breaks in the spring, April or May. And then the construction going on possibly until September, or even October, depending on materials and the supply chain.
So, Bill, as I look at this, the construction length really is not necessarily the ability to get the work done. It's the preparedness for supply chain issues. Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're anticipating. Just from what we're hearing, it's not just one thing. Usually, it's one thing, from time to time, but it's everything now. We're hearing casework, steel, mechanical equipment, electrical equipment, everything. So it's kind of unnerving, I guess, at this point.
Okay.
So given that this is, obviously we're doing, looking at the calendar, this construction is going to happen in serial, right? So it's all 3 buildings all at once through the school year. And we've got concerns about availability of materials and labor and all sorts of things, puts us in a position where it may be become difficult at some points to secure the entrances because they're under construction, right? I don't know. How do we mitigate that risk to whatever extent we can, especially like I said, during the school year where we have students in the building?
Well, I think that's part of that will be when we do select either a construction manager, a general contractor, or part of that is going to be on their docket to figure out. The main entrances, we've already talked to administration that we would be moving them, or there would be some sort of temporary access to the main entrances while we are doing construction. So in the beginning, it would just be foundations, really, just excavation, and we probably would stay away from the actual main entrance. Just getting as much done as we can, as early as we can.
But to answer your question, we do anticipate at any, if not all, of the 3 buildings needing to have an alternative entrance exit either at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year if it's not finished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this is a pretty elongated schedule. mostly through the summer, but, definitely creeping into this, in the right now timeframe, right? If we start getting further into that, now we got a hole in the building and it's starting to get cold out.
Yeah, it's not exactly that, but this is exactly, it's very similar to a project I've done before. We did have to do everything we've talked about. It can be done very seamlessly, but having the construction manager on board makes that process, that discussion more productive.
And if I may just keep these thoughts, because we are going to be interviewing on Friday for our construction manager or GC. I would love to have more than, Jim, nothing personal. If we had more board members participating, it would help us actually vet whoever it is that we select for that role to obviously to ask them these tough questions. Say, how do you plan to deliver this? What are your expectations with the supply chain? What do materials look like? How is labor? All these things are the questions that we've got. And really, the more eyes and the more scrutiny that we can put on that process on Friday, the better we'll be. If I did have, obviously, if we have a number, we can, post it as a meeting. But at this point, Jim has been kind enough to. You accept it? I don't know. I think Jim is going to be there. I'm hoping so. So either way, I was going to get to that in my report.
Let me know, we can talk offline, but let me know what time that meeting is up.
Fantastic. Great, Jake. Thank you.
So Bill, to clarify one point though, are we talking, again, my original interpretation of this is we were going to do parallel, that all three, we would start them off obviously at different points, but we would be working on all three buildings in parallel, not in serial. So that.
Did I say serial?
Yeah, I just want to,
You said
so
it.
so people understand that it's, we're not going to start one and then move to the next one. It's all three. And again, in our preliminary discussions, it was because Reed has the most capability to begin potentially early with that entrance, get that groundwork started before we move on. And then obviously understanding that Walsh and Ludwig, because of the bus ramps, that's just not going to be able to take place until we finish the school year. It's just it's too complicated.
Great questions. Thanks, everybody. Back over to DLA.
I think Peter's back on.
Sorry, guys, I cut out. Sometimes my internet's a little spotty down here in the basement, so apologize for that. But so I heard there was some questions. I think I cut out somewhere around where we are now, October 19th. We're just ending design development. So the designs that we're going to present today have been vetted, altered, and revised several times since the inception of the project by the whole team here, the administration team at D92, DLA, the principals. We've all kind of gone through and made adjustments and tweaks, and today we'll be presenting hopefully the final culmination of that. So as I said, we're wrapping up design. Some activity is happening at the project sites. Site surveys are happening by WT civil engineers. Soil borings are taking place later this week. And we're going to be shifting from design mode into construction document mode, where we're actually putting the blueprints together. All of our consultants are getting on board and developing all of the necessary details to put the whole project out to bid. And hopefully we're targeting a January 12th out to bid, just past the holiday season. And then that'll be a 3-week bid period, and we'll open bids on February 2nd. So if everything goes according to plan, we should be presenting contracts at the February 15th board meeting, and then we should be off to the races. So then pre-construction submittal start, and then construction would start in those few months right after we accept the contracts, and then the actual construction would start sometime in May and hopefully be wrapped up by October of that year. So There are a number of other procedural items on here for finance, some financial matters. I don't know if Dave, you want to touch on that about the sale of the bonds that needs to happen.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks, Peter. The board has heard the recommendation of the refinancing of our bonds. That's the one short-term solution that we have for financing this construction. This allows us to access and refinance the bonds that were issued back in 2015 and in a way that allows us to really stretch that out over an extended period of time, gives us the capital that we need in the short term. But again, it's like the calendar with the construction. It gives us kind of a tight time frame. There's a public hearing that would have to happen in December. Approval, basically adopting the resolution for the sale in January. The sale of the bonds would happen in February, and hopefully then receiving funds by the end of February. So we're going out to bid in January, hopefully then receiving the funds in February. I'm working with our advisor from PMA, and she's assured me the model that I've shared with all of you in terms of what the expectations are for that. But again, this is forward thinking. So there is a little bit of room there for fluctuation in terms of, the unknowns. Remember though, we do have ESSER funds that could help offset some construction as well. And so just playing all those pieces out, I think is sort of, where we're at from the financial side.
Dave, on the bond side, is there a history of them being tough to go through, tough to sell, tough to get paid when we're expecting to? Or is it pretty seamless?
It's pretty seamless. Tammy Beckwith, who presented to us several months ago, this is what they do. And so,
the risk is low.
Very low. Comes back, down to our credit rating, which is excellent. And it comes down to the history that we have, the construction plans that we're putting in place. They'll want to see all those pieces. So right now I'm working with Tim on just going through really our construction that has happened in the past. Also then going through our construction that we're modeling out in the future and identifying price points with all those, so that we truly know when we defend, why are we doing this? Well, this is the why. And then we have, mapped out over the next 3 years to do all of this work. And it will get us to that point where we feel pretty confident that we'll be able to expend those funds in that time period.
Historically, I can speak on this, being on the board when we had the last bond fund to begin this updating of all the buildings. We had an excellent bond rating, and we were actually very shocked how quickly the bonds were scooped up. I mean, it was, we didn't anticipate at all how quickly it took place. And it was very, very positive, and it moved very quickly. And again, in a very similar timeline where we had the hearings, had the bond sale and the allocation. So I'm not saying the times aren't different, but our credit rating, our ability to our money management ability plays a big role in that bond sale. So that's how it was in our prior sale.
Peter, I think I can send it back to you then.
Sure. So we've covered the general overall schedule where we're at right now, where we've been, and to get here to be able to present to this, a lot of work has gone into what you're going to see tonight. So hopefully you enjoy the update, and we're very excited on our end. It's been a great process working with the administration team, like I said, and we're excited to kick this off and see these buildings get built. I think it's going to be a great asset for you guys. So with that, Rich, do you want to walk us through the front part of the presentation?
Yeah. All right. So if you jump back to the second page, the master plan of Walsh.
We're there.
Back up there. All right, so this is just a quick overview of the building as a whole, the master plan here. Starting up at the north, that purple classroom is the existing conference room that will get turned over as a class, turned back over to a classroom as part of this work. So highlighting that area. And then everything in green down on the bottom left-hand side of the plan there, that's our new area of work. It's pretty much the same as before. So just a quick recap of the master plan. So if you go on to the second page, the blow up, this is kind of the main area of our work. One thing that we did add since last time was the remodeling of the toilet rooms just off the main entry at Walsh. So replacing those basically just in place. Right now they're kind of inefficient with 2 sets of doors. So making those ADA accessible and fixing any other plumbing issues as well. So that's one thing that was added since last time. Otherwise, off to the left, our addition and remodeling area. This is pretty much the same pieces in the same spots, a couple things flipped here and there, but basically the same as what you saw last time. So starting up front, a new secured vestibule with the main reception area right off to the left there. There's a space for 2 staff members to work up front. A small reception waiting area for visitors. There's a built-in desk for students or parents of students to fill out paperwork or forms and things like that. Right across the hall from that reception is the nurse's office. A little bit more development in there. Dedicated area for 2 cots and then some storage and work area for the nurse staff as well. There's also a toilet room and a storage room inside the nurse suite as well. Moving further back, right off the reception area, there are 3 main spaces: the principal's office, a large conference room, and then an extra small conference room flex room. So those are the kind of the main components of the addition portion. Just to the north, that's all of our interior remodeling part. That's where the existing office is now. So just next to the nurse is the mailroom workroom. A staff toilet or toilet for the staff up front, and then a storage room as well for student records. So pretty much the same pieces as you saw before, just a couple little tweaks here and there. And as we kind of developed this a little bit further, got into some of the nitty gritty details. A nice big workroom that now has an island right in the middle. So one thing we learned from our building tours with the staff and meetings with the staff and site visits, we saw the benefit of having this big open workroom for all the different kind of things that go on in there. If you go to the next slide, that's the exterior view. Again, very similar to before, nothing really changed on the exterior here. So again, proposing a new accent brick, a little bit darker than the existing building to really make the admin addition pop stand out. And then again, bringing in the school colors at the main entrance. The exact colors tweaked a little bit because of a different product we're proposing to use now. But again, bringing the school color in with a blue and then a yellowish wood tone would look as well. So again, really highlighting that main entrance. It pops up above the addition to really call your attention to where the main entrance is now. A few more site developments, taking that next level of detail with the site. You'll see off to the right, there are 2 concrete benches. So rather than do kind of a traditional bollard, we're proposing to do a built-in concrete bench. So this can act as a physical barrier for any kind of cars, things like that. So it's a safety thing, but also making it a little bit more usable. So it's now a built-in bench. So for students for waiting before and after school, things like that. So trying to make it a little bit more functional, double function, practical use and safety at the same time. If you go on then to the next page is the Ludwig master plan. Again, the same concept here with our moving the admin up front. You can see that up front. Just to the north of the main entrance is one addition from last time, is kind of recreating a receiving area. We know we're displacing receiving right now by moving the admin addition up here. And there's also a couple of logistical issues with how the loading dock works right now and the trash enclosure, all that stuff being up right up front at the front of the building right now. So that's one addition since last time. But you can move on to the actual blow up here and we can get into some of the details. So starting at the front with the new secured vestibule, same as before, you can see as well that receiving area off to the north there. So an actual receiving area with front and back doors for deliveries, a built-in trash enclosure area with a new masonry wall to screen that from public site, and then kind of flipping how the receiving works, moving the actual loading dock just to the top of that plan, and then putting in a new stair. So just some minor details, but we think this helps clean up and make that a little bit logistically more functional for you. Then back in the main office, so right off that secured vestibule, the same basic desk concept for 2 staff members, secured entrance. Right off that front entry is the student records room and the small conference flex room. Everything off to the left, those 2 rooms that kind of stick out, that's the addition portion, and that's the principal's office and large conference room. Everything else is interior remodeling. Just to the south of the main reception is the nurse. Off of that is the toilet room and storage room as well for the nurse, 2 dedicated cot areas, and then our built-in support casework as well. So again, all the same pieces, just a little bit more development within those. And then just south of that, further down the plan, is a large workroom. Again, reshaping that room so we could get that large island in the middle for staff to use. And then the staff toilet, and then our emergency egress out to the exterior.
I have a question about Ludwig.
Yep.
What is the office and now is still labeled office? Is that going to remain office, or is that being recaptured as classroom or STEM we talked about, I thought?
That is still to be determined.
Okay.
Some version of student use is what we're
Okay.
picturing for that.
Okay.
All right. So then if you go on to the next page, that is the exterior rendering. Again, very, very similar materials, exact same materials really as Walsh. So that accent brick, and then bring in our school colors to the panel system with the blue and the yellow. There's also, again, the using those built-in benches as bollards. So making a little bit more, practical use out of a safety measure. Again, the area off on the left would be the parent drop-off, and then the bus drop-off on the right. So quite a lot of vehicular traffic at this area. So creating as much safety buffer as we can with that. And then off to the left, you can see that reworked receiving area. If you go to the next page is the Reed master plan. So one relatively significant difference, instead of that area just to the left of our green addition is an existing classroom area and some support spaces that we were previously gonna basically knock down and rebuild. But as opposed to losing that space, we're proposing to push the addition so that all the work is actually an addition now. So now that classroom and all the support spaces remain intact. And now all of our work is just one nice clean addition. So not messing with the existing in this instance. So we don't lose any space inside the school, and it makes construction a lot easier and cleaner. So everything is in addition off to the east of this plan, top right of the plan. And then if you go in to the next page is the blow up. All the same basic components as before, just kind of got shifted over a little bit. So again, as we start at the front, secured vestibule, reception area, waiting area, and the built-in workstation area as well. Right off that main entry to the top right of the plan is the nurse's office, again with the toilet room and storage room as well, 2 dedicated cot areas, and then the backup area for the nurse. Right down the hall then is principal and large conference room right next to each other. And then further down the hall across from our emergency exit is the small flex conference room. So again, all the same pieces, just little shifted. Also by pushing this to the addition area off to the right, we got a much bigger, better shaped workroom as well. So again, we can get that island in there as well. So creating a lot more usable space for all the stuff that's going to be happening in that workroom with mailboxes, large copiers, things like that. So, yeah, basically the same pieces, just kind of got shifted around a little bit since last time and developed a little bit further. And then if you go on to the next one, that's the exterior view from the north.
Just a minute, we have a
1 second.
question.
Sure.
I'm sure it's an easy one, but the same question as Ludwig with the current office space that we have earmarked now. Is it dedicated?
All three schools may end up with an alternative entrance for some time. Is that what you're?
No. Recapturing the office space that exists today, is that going back to student use that we as well?
That's still a bit to be determined also. So the one that we know is going to turn into a classroom, we do anticipate Walsh. The other spaces, we've got some more work to do with staff to see what's the best use of that.
And is that something we'll do post-project? Or will it be
No,
part of this?
as we go.
Okay.
Yep. Because if there is a need to tear down a wall or something like that, we want to do it while we're tearing up the rest of the building.
Okay.
All right, so if you go on to the next slide is the exterior view from the north. So that's looking back at the addition, so you can see everything off to the right there. That's shorter volume is the existing building, and then our new proposed addition. Proposing, since we are pushing a little closer to the parking lot, proposing to kind of rework the way the site works a little bit up front, creating more of a buffer and a plaza up front for a little bit more of a buffer to the addition. And then if you go to the next slide, that's looking back from the south. So again, those same materials and the same basic language where we kind of have this box within a box folding plane that really projects out towards the site to clearly define this entrance from the street. And then again, you can see how those bollards, planter or benches can act as safety bollards here as well. So really the same concept at each building, trying to create as much parity as we can, but naturally each building is relatively unique to one another. So, all those same pieces, but they all kind of work together based on the site, and hopefully each one meets your needs. We've definitely gone through a lot of tweaks between us and the staff. So we're really happy with where we got. We think we've hopefully finally nailed it down here. So.
Well, thank you, Rachel. Let's just see if there are any questions.
Doreen, do you want to ask or should I?
Well,
Because I know what.
Yeah,
That's
so
the first thing.
Dr. Arnold and we did chat a little bit this morning, just on the exterior. I think our last meeting with you guys, I kind of mentioned just the thought of maybe having each building exterior just a little bit different. I think the interior, it looks fabulous. I just, in looking at these buildings exterior wise, I see the same thing. And I mean, just me personally, I'm struggling with that because I do think that, I think each building, I think we're a very fortunate district that we have 4 buildings tailored to different, age groups and all of that. And I would just like to see a little bit of variance in the exteriors. So is that, Jim, that you were gonna ask that?
I know that was and I agree with each building has its own personality, its own age group. So again, I know that was a focal point for you, and I agree.
Right.
Give each building, it doesn't have to be dramatic, but just something unique that makes it we know this is Reed because this is the way it looks.
Right. And I know Dr. Arnold and I talked about, I think mascots, school mascots came up. I guess my vision when I mentioned that, I don't see that. I just see something different at each building. at the entry. So sorry, I don't want to be the only board member to, well, Jim, you said you're.
I will speak my mind on it.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, to me, if these three buildings were all, in sequence on the same property, I would want to see some variance. We're talking about miles apart. And we are one district. And I think a lot of the things that I've heard throughout the years is we don't provide much uniform process. I mean, we have different mascots at every building and different pictures. I like the unity of it. I mean, Old Prairie is not going to look anything like it because that's a totally different building. I get that. But I mean, the design and it's a huge facelift to the exterior of our buildings. I think that's great. I wouldn't want to delay anything any further to give us something more unique when we could probably do something after the fact with, whatever kind of decor or, whatever we want to do, maybe a different signage out front, something like that. That's just my opinion. Like, I certainly don't want to delay this. We're already pushing well into next school year. We don't want this to fall any farther behind where these guys have to go back and, redesign.
I was gonna kind of say the same thing, just a little different. From what I hear, the supply chain is already kind of messed up. So I would hate for them to have, although I am a glitzy glammy girl. I would love for them to all have like that signature thing too, but I would hate for it to be delayed because we already know we got to wait for parts potentially. If we can order all the same thing and get it done, I'm wondering if there's some type of small compromise with just the lettering. Is there like a different font for like the different lettering? I don't even know if that's the thing. I know nothing about I don't even change light bulbs. So like, I know nothing about any of that, but if I can see like if they're pre-K through first, I hear that and that makes sense to me. But if things are already delayed and back ordered, if we can order all blue siding, let's get all the blue siding. If we can get all yellow, that makes sense to me just for the bigger picture. And then maybe that's something we can focus on later. And then maybe there's little tweaks along the way and maybe there are accommodations because we've done work on like our house. We've had to make like little small accommodations because something didn't come in, or maybe those are small things we can make along the way, but I don't think it's anything we should delay.
There's also so many windows that you could turn the windows into children's artwork from the kids that are at the school, right? It could add their little personal touch. Because there's so many windows in all the layouts, which I think is great because I'm a big window fan. However, when I buy another house, I won't buy as many windows with my house type of thing. But that could be something simple because being in the hardware industry, I am very concerned about supply chain. So I worry if we differ too much from a design aspect of it, then you just risk getting supplies from different places. So.
And to your point about the windows, I hadn't thought about it, but we're at the high school. The athletic department has done a ton with the vinyl coverings that are see-through, like you see on buses, right?
Yep.
You can see through those windows and can't see in, and there's
I love it.
full board kind of ideas. So as I think about it, any project like this, you lay out the plans, you do all the drawings, everything looks great. And then once you move in, you have to live with the space. And then you're like, okay, now I understand I need this cabinet that I thought was so fantastic in the drawing actually needs to be here. And it's that same sort of living with the space and then developing the personalities or the extras around it.
I like the three design. I mean, I like the uniformity. We talked about this before, and I think you make a great point that there's, they're not on the same plot of land. They're pretty far apart. Although looking at this, what sticks out to me is 2 of the 3 schools have a huge, section of brick that we can do a lot with, right? A huge mascot or something like that to give them a little bit of their unique personality. The one that really doesn't is Walsh, not directly. There's some space over there, so we still have that option, I think, and that could be an after. It doesn't have to be a right now. It doesn't have to delay the project. Yeah, I've been a big fan of the kind of making them feel like one district, from the jump. So I've always liked it.
Now, one thing Dorian and I talked about this morning is maybe even like the bollards could be different. Like you could picture something more whimsical that's almost something a kid might be comfortable playing on or something like that at the lower grade, and then something different, benches or whatever when you get to Ludwig or something. So those kind of things I don't think would hold up the process, could keep things going, but gives us still chance down the road to individualize and keep some uniformity at the same time.
Tim, to tag on to that, that's one thing we were talking about too in the office is just the perhaps the benches are different shapes. As you progress through the grade school level, they become more complicated shapes, and by the time you're at Ludwig, they're trapezoids or something instead of just a plain old square or something like that. Just to kind of differentiate. Don't know if anybody would really notice that, but it would be a definite difference in the schools.
You could play off something like what we did in Walsh with the art room, where we have the primary shapes in the tile itself. So you could, again, not saying that would be an easy thing, but one of those benches is a circle, one is a square, one is a triangle, or something like that, where it's unique to the primary school and it ties into what's already existing in the building.
Yeah, I definitely think the benches are fantastic. If there was a triangle bench, like I've never seen a triangle bench. That really would be interesting.
That's cute.
Right?
Target had the big.
I was just gonna say,
spears,
put
like-
the target balls on there.
Well, that's what we mentioned this morning. It's like my kids don't go into Target without trying to jump over the
Yeah,
ball.
my
So
kids
I don't know that we want to agree to hazards. But
Yeah.
some of your sons might be out. Well, I also wonder if there's some opportunity to research the history of the name for each of the schools, and maybe there's a story behind there with the person or the naming of it that could lead to some interesting addition or feature to each interest to bring it all together.
I like that.
So that's something else we could look into, but those things don't have to hold up the process also.
Right. So while we have the principals here, these are your spaces. You're going to have to live with them. Have you all agreed and excited about what's being proposed?
We had a lot of input, which is really nice. And we're able to go back again and look at this design.
And I imagine the workrooms, I know Walsh's workroom or lack thereof, or whatever you want to call that space. Yeah, the little copier room that's insanely odd for what needs to be accomplished in there. Like I saw that and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not as familiar with the other two buildings' needs, but I thought Walsh really needs that workspace room for sure. So good. This is the time to, you've had your chance. So
Speak now.
speak now, because we want to honor your spaces and they're being your spaces, and want to make sure you guys are.
The multiple meetings were really due to us, so that's.
That was a very nice way to say that.
Yeah.
That's
All right,
accurate.
excellent.
Time well spent.
Tim, has technology looked at this? Have they weighed in on, how we're gonna get, new things wired up, TV,
Yes.
projectors, all that? It's obviously not in here, except a lot of details.
Right.
We do have a plan.
Yes. Yeah, we've actually had discussions about Ludwig. What piping are we going to do? Just being proactive, thinking to the future.
And just thinking about the principals weighing in on where they want. new
Absolutely.
technology, TVs,
Yep.
cameras, all that.
Yeah, the idea is, you can't ever have enough of that. And we've even had discussions. I think DLA threw it around about, okay, in 10 years, what are the copiers going to be like? Are you going to need the same size? Just trying to forecast as much as we can the space.
Yeah, I actually talked to our head of tech at the end of our last meeting about it, and Dave and I have had conversations because when we did the first run through of the secure option for Walsh, that was one of the biggest questions was, we were very, the designs were very minimalistic in terms of the capacity of the piping. Could we pull additional wiring if we needed to in the future? And it's like, when you got the space open, oversize it for the future so that you have that capability. So, hopefully we'll continue that.
All right. So what are,
Dave, do you want to go over next steps?
Yes. So
we have a meeting set up for the 26th and in between.
Right. Really, next steps is interviews on Friday, looking for volunteers. And then we have a special board meeting set up for the 26th, really with the sole purpose of just selecting that construction manager or GC board. Will be selecting that person. In terms of the framework that we're following, this has been a proven framework. We're going through a process called an advisor. Basically, there is a contract for that. So we'll go through that whole process. Really, so then after the 26th, then it's the next step then really is the financial side. While whoever we select for the construction manager, one of the main criteria is they can start on the 27th. Because it's really, this whole project, the success will be predicated really on that individual being able to hit the ground running. That's why we will have shared the designs. The interviews will really be testing them to make sure they understand the scope and the urgency and how quickly this is going to be a deliverable for us. So, their ability to deliver is going to be critical.
Their immediate task are the bid documents. They
Yes.
need to go out in January. It's
Yep.
going to take that much time.
It's going to take that much time to be able to prep for that.
all right.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
DLA.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right. Next section is public comments, agenda items. A designated portion of the board meeting is set aside to your comments on topics listed on the agenda. A person wishing to speak must sign in and provide all information requested on the sign-in sheet, including the agenda item they will be addressing. The board president will call speakers up by name, announcing their time to comment. A time limit of 5 minutes per speaker per agenda topic will be imposed. The purpose of requesting such information on the sign-in sheet is to obtain the correct spelling of the name of the speaker and contact information, which we'll use for any necessary board follow-up. Do we have any? No, okay. None for agenda. Okay. Next, administrative reports, Dr. Arnold.
Okay. The board has my information. It's in the board packet. I will summarize. We have been, like I said earlier, when we recognize the principals, we've been focused on providing the most continuity of learning for our students as possible during the pandemic. 3 things we've been focused on recently. We celebrated the physical distance at lunch. We really recognize that all 4 principals have done everything they can to maximize that. That keeps kids in school. That's huge. Access to synchronous learning, that is addressed in the updated memorandum of understanding that you'll be taking action on later with the union. We're excited for that increased connection with students with some synchronous time with staff. And then finally, something that we are targeting next Tuesday to go into effect, and that's the test to stay protocol. So once again, that's a 3rd prong of something that wasn't worth the time and effort until we recently got permission from the Will County Health Department to use that for buses. So for all the parents who are frustrated because their child is a close contact and thereby excluded because of the bus, we will be able to put that in place starting next Tuesday, meaning test to stay is simply, if you're a close contact, you can continue to go to school as long as you test and test negative on day 1, 3, 5, and 7. So the nice thing is, because we have shield testing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we can cover people on 4 of those days. They'll be able to go to one of our other schools, do that seamlessly. However, a parent would, if a student was to stay in the test to stay protocol, need to, on day 5 or 7, if it's on a Monday or if it's on a Saturday, get that test themselves. So we have it all. We're still finalizing some communication to parents for when that happens. And we believe that will go into place on Tuesday, the 26th. So all three things that have taken a significant amount of time and effort by phenomenal staff. I can't say enough about our nurses, especially Patty McGuire. Nora Skensos won't take a lot of credit, but as the leader of the nurses, she's been right there with them. It's been a heavy lift to get to this point, and we're almost there.
Is it a specific type of test, or have they not put that information?
So
out?
that'll all be in that. So we're not going to broadcast it necessarily to all parents, because you won't worry about it until you're in the moment and it's your kid. But it does have to be the PCR test.
Okay.
We won't accept a Binex test, the test at home and those kind of things. So don't go out and buy a bunch of those. Our tests are always free. So yeah.
Thank you.
And there's information. We are excited. I am excited that we have the superintendent parent advisory team starting up next week. And we'll have a strategic priorities update at the next board meeting. That's all I have.
Right. Dave, did you have?
I don't have much else to say, but I just have a couple of things. I do apologize. It's been a lot of construction. So at table, I provided everybody the estimated tax levy. Next month in November, I'll be coming forward with an approval of an estimated tax levy, bringing the final in December. We have to post this in the newspaper. We have to have a hearing. So the hearing would happen in December. But I'll bring this final version next month for to review, and then the final one obviously is in December. Next month, then, just to remind the board, we'll be needing to adopt the resolution for the intent to go out with the sale of the bonds. That's in November. I am again still looking for volunteers for Friday if anybody's interested. I know. I might have to pay.
But just to note, it is important if they reach out to you that they need to be at all three. There's three.
There are
interviews
three.
set.
Yes, we have three, potentially a fourth, but we can't lock in a time for Friday. But it's all in the morning, so we'll be done by I think the last one actually is at 11:30 or noon. So we'll be done by 1 at the latest. I can provide lunch if you want lunch, if that helps. But there are three.
So yeah,
that
3
we
or
have.
4.
Yep.
And so if you're interested, let Dave know. We would need to post it. If we have 3 or more, we need to post it as a public meeting by tomorrow at, well, geez, tomorrow morning. You're gonna have to let Dave know tonight.
Yeah.
So it'd have to be posted first thing tomorrow morning. Right. So.
A couple more things then. In November, I do plan to run a facility meeting then before our board meeting. So an hour before, we're going to try something different. So starting at 6, have a facility meeting, and hopefully we can cover some of the latest updates with construction. And then again, obviously next week, we do have that special board meeting. Happy to answer any other questions about the material in the board packet.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
The director of technology isn't with us. He provided a report about some servers, and there's something else in there.
New hire, some interviews.
Oh yeah, the
Fully-
student information system.
Fully staffed as of November 1st, first time since July of 2019.
So, very good.
Yay.
If there were any questions, Dr. Arnold or Dave might be able to answer them. Otherwise, we can reach out to Bill later.
With the servers that we're going to decommission, are we having those destroyed, or are we just wiping them and then surplus?
It most likely it'll be wiping them in surplus, but I would probably leave that up
I was
to.
gonna say, let's follow up with that. I will get the answer to that. We'll follow up. I don't want to take a guess on that one.
Yeah. All right. Consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the, oh, sorry. Sandy asked us again with the masks, when you motion and second, if you could say your last name so she can make sure she's getting the right people. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided, as presented.
Middleton.
All right. Any questions or? All right, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Motion's carried. All right, I need a motion to approve the District 92 graduate level assessment course. Gurecki. Middleton. All right. Dr. Arnold, anything real? on that?
This is what we talked about last month. I've provided additional detail that approaches what I would call a syllabus. Be happy to answer any questions, but if the board approves this tonight, then we'll reach out to staff and see what interest there is in it.
The only thing, Dr. Arnold, I just had from the from last month is, I mean, I like the idea. I'm just, wondering about timing.
Sure.
Just with everything that is kind of going on.
Yep.
I mean.
You and me both.
Okay.
So what we said, we have not, so I didn't want to get in front of the board. So once the board approves it, the next step, and Jamie and I talked this morning that, there may be no one that wants this at this time. So what I see is putting out a couple options for days a week. So first of all, are you interested at all ever? And if you are you interested, what day of the week would be best, what time? But then also, would you like to start in November, December, January? And so we're going to kind of feel that out and see. It doesn't help to put it on if no one's interested. So it's something that once the board approves, we talked, this might be something that happens next spring. It might be a summer 22 thing. So I don't know, but we're going to give it a shot.
Okay.
So, yeah. I agree. And especially, I know the holidays are right around the corner and things like that. So we just want to see what interest there is and try to maximize.
Sure. Okay.
And it doesn't have to be a one-time thing. We can do it more than once.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion carries. All right. I need a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding, the updated remote access for excluded students. Middleton. All right. Questions, comments?
Are there any questions? This really just expands the amount of, it does update, and the previous one I think was from June. So we've added the term exclusion to comply with the governor's terminology for legal reasons, but also more importantly, really looking at giving specific options for students to access learning synchronously at the same time with a real person. So still some flexibility in there for teachers, and I want to recognize all the time the union put into getting us negotiating this to this point.
So I just have some thoughts. So in looking at this, I to a non-educator, it seems very confusing. Like more complicated. Grant, don't look at me like that.
I'm looking at the document. You're good.
So, and I'm seeing the language like, will choose, or what is, I can't say it now with, but, I choose or that, so, or teachers will make the decision, teachers will choose. So just, can you give me a little bit of kind of background on where all of this kind of came from?
Sure. A simple way to do it would say, in my starting point of, when there's whole group instruction, we turn on a video camera and the student gets to listen and possibly watch that in real time. Learning all the lessons we learned from last year, I'm well aware of the challenges that creates for teachers and classrooms, and not as easy as me saying, okay? But that was the starting point, super simple, okay? But as we looked at that, giving teachers choice, there is no choice to provide nothing, okay? So having a choice of something looks like this. A teacher can do what we just said, and teachers are. We have most of Ludwig, if not all. We have a variety of other teachers, Prairie, same thing, where they are live streaming currently. So that's happening 4th grade on up. For the younger grades, it is developmentally different for students. We've given some choice to teachers. They can do what we just said. They can take their time during their plan time and schedule that with the student or a small group of students if they have 2 kids out maybe. or they could do it during or after school. We did talk a lot about wanting to limit, because we have some teachers that they are very energetic and they would go 2 hours after school. And so in talking with the union, as much as you admire that, we don't want to burn someone out. And so there's some extra language in here that made to, I mean, this isn't written for parents, it's written as a negotiated document, but it really does bring together some, we try to put some guardrails on there that we really appreciate those teachers, like maybe the teacher themselves doesn't want to do the live streaming, but they could give the lesson plans to Matt, and Matt would be available after school to work with that student or small groups of students. So that's an option in here. Maybe there is a teacher at that grade level that would have no problem giving up their plan time to teach that if the teacher didn't want to do it. So that's included in here. Maybe there's no teacher at that school that wants to do this. So we found a way to create some language around opening that up to any teacher in the district. What we're going for is trying to give our excluded students, because we know it's hopefully only about 10 days. Sometimes we've had some unique cases go on, but if we could really consolidate that and have a live teacher with that student on a daily basis, even if it's a half hour after school, we believe that's a step in the right direction where we need to be. So the complicated aspect of this, it makes sense when you're negotiating it all, but I can see why you would read it now and think this seems like a lot of back and forth. But it's just to outline different options that give our students more of what they need, and at the same time doesn't set up a system that burns out teachers, because extending that day, that's why you see some language around trying to cut off how long, and there's an so that's
okay. And I'm assuming these discussions all came from the building level, you know, as far as.
Well, I only negotiate with the union, the union leadership, but they principals talk with their teachers, and then union leadership talked with the teachers too, and brought those ideas to the table.
And then there was one thing I saw there, just if we needed to hire a remote teacher.
So that was an idea the union brought up in the summer, and we said we're worried about having enough regular substitutes, and the evidence is borne out. We don't have that. But one commitment I did make to this, that if the board approves this, we will post and do our best to hire a remote teacher who could pick up some of this. And if they're not doing anything with that remote aspect, then we could use them as a substitute because we need them desperately.
Got it. Okay.
We currently have one full-time, I call it semi-permanent substitute per building. And we started that last year. We came back in person. We've continued that. And the principals assess about every 2 months. I ask for verification. Do you anticipate the need continuing for that another 2 months? They tell me, yes, we do. I mean, it's kind of a perfunctory, but they say yes. And so we've kept them on. So we're going to analyze this once we get on the other side of COVID to see, is there a need down the road to look at some kind of a permanent sub for the district? So that's where that kind of that remote sub, remote teacher could blend into it.
Thank you.
Great questions.
I have a question, but I lost it. There is, I can't find the sentence. There's something in here that states it starts on day 3. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So the
'Cause
reason
it says day late, so it's like it conflicts, right? So
Yeah.
I get that they have to plan. So I just want to.
we've gotten pretty experienced with contact tracing and all that kind of stuff. And we've had, and even with the test to stay, once again, that's why things like, I want to call out before I answer your question, the importance of the 3 things I mentioned earlier. Like, we're trying to keep kids in school so we don't have to do any of these things, short of a student being positive, obviously. But remind me what you were asking. I talked
The day
myself.
starts
Day
there.
Oh, that, yeah,
Day
so if the
3,
student will be.
we found more than once students who can test to get back in on day 2 or day 3. And with the amount of work it is for a teacher to coordinate with another teacher to do that synchronous instruction.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to wait till we were sure the student was likely to be out for the entire time.
Okay.
That was the
makes
only
sense.
reason for that. What the other piece was, when does the teacher give assignments? And I said, well, what have we always done? What's the rule always been? The rule always has been that like if a student goes home sick at 10 o'clock in the morning, by the end of the next day, their assignments would be ready to go. Okay. If the student never comes to school, their assignments have always been ready, at least for that day, at the end of that day. So we've maintained that same process because the question was, when do teachers need to have assignments ready? And we've answered it with the way we've always done.
Okay, that makes sense. Have
But
you,
that combined with the remote stuff, it takes some time to coordinate. Matt's going to teach this for me, and we're, okay, Matt, you're with Timmy, and figuring out times with parents. We thought, let's make sure they're going to be in it for the long haul, and day 3 made sense.
have you seen now with the spreading out of lunch, have you seen a reduction in the close contact tracing?
We haven't had time to really see that yet. We just started that at Reed and Walsh last Monday, okay, we did get a full weekend. And then Ludwig started yesterday. So in another week or so, we'll see the fruits of that labor.
I'm super excited. I appreciate you guys working so hard because I know it's stressful. So
And
I'm
if you
super
go in
excited.
Oak Prairie, you look at it and it looks safe. I mean, any normal person would look at that and think, this looks really safe, but they're not 6 feet apart. And so that's the frustrating thing. They're as far as they can. Okay.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. All right, the IASB resolution number 1, pre-service teacher education and licensure in literacy.
So it's I think, Jim, are you still looking to be the delegate for the
Yes.
assembly? So one big thing, I sent an email to the board from the School Board Association. I think it was actually one of their representative districts advocating for this to pass. It really is, the nuts and bolts of it is advocating, the resolution advocates for focus on a literacy course for pre-service teachers before they graduate and get their certification. Seems like a slam dunk, kind of surprised that it wasn't already something. But there's additional information in the email behind the why and some research of why this is important. And so I think it's just to give Bill, in between now and the November board meeting, to give him any direction the board wants around voting for the delegates assembly. And Bill, I'm not clear on how that's happened in the past. I know last year was virtual. What do you need from the board? Because this is just a discussion item.
Well, so typically what I ask is, and this is great because everyone has a copy of the resolutions in their board book. So I strongly recommend that you read the resolutions. And then, of course, we've got our meeting just before the conferences. At that point, it's not me speaking as the person representing the district, but it's me speaking on behalf of the board's decision on how we stand on each of these resolutions. Year in, year out, the number of resolutions rise and fall. What's printed in this document may not necessarily vet out at the meeting. We've had occasions where 3 and 4 resolutions do not meet the criteria. In other words, they have to come back with any objections, any questions that were asked. They have 30 to 60 days to respond to those questions. If they don't, the resolution does not go before the entire committee. But it is really important that everyone read through these resolutions. Definitely contact myself, but more importantly, Dr. Arnold, having much more experience in some of these questions. I can tell you, I'm not shocked. I presented this to the board, I think 3 years ago, that resolution 2 will come back. And resolution 2, again, is a discussion on authorizing a school official to have a firearm on campus. And this is a very heated discussion. It made the Chicago news on every station. There was a lot of press even after the committee meeting. So these are things that, you know, what you feel strongly about, I need to know. And again, it's not just me speaking. So some of these don't seem very straightforward. Some of them to me seem like, you know, this is an absolute yes or an absolute no. There's definitely areas we have for discussion. And more importantly, moving forward, if there's an area of concern that this district feels, that's something that you bring to Dr. Arnold. We put together one of these resolutions for next year or the following year. It's something that's part of the process that, you know, we as board members try and make our system better. If there's a loophole, we try to cover it. If it's an area that we just haven't had a discussion on that we really should, you know, again, you know, the first literacy comment is something that you don't think about, but then when it's presented to you, you go, why haven't we done that? So certainly, you know, put your thoughts together. As you'll see on that document, you know, right at the beginning of this is where the board recommendations are, so that, you know, this is the positions of the board. Again, it's not my positions. I'm presenting to the committee what our board feels is important and where we stand throughout these resolutions. I'm actually very surprised at after 2 years, the number of resolutions we have. Again, I expected this to be less than 10, but you know, this is a good thing. It's certainly covers a lot of areas. And again, what happens is from this point, these recommendations are presented to our lobbyists in Springfield, who try to sway the legislature to take action. So again, we've got until the next meeting for people to review, and you know, we can discuss at the next meeting. And again, if there's serious concerns or questions, please contact Dr. Arnold so that he can explain them as well.
And Jim, thank you. I mean, as long as I've been on the board, you've been it. So thanks for all your
Yeah,
time and
it'll be
efforts.
a couple more years and then we'll have to transition some of these. They get a feel for it because it's an exciting process. I mean, you're truly in that legislative action that goes to Springfield. So
Cool. Excellent. Any other discussion on the secured entrances? I think we exhausted ourselves pretty well.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If anybody, I've heard rumors.
Lunch is being served.
Yeah. All right. Noel, any new business? Okay. Information items and student we're in the board packet, FOIA requests and student conduct review. Any communications? Okay. Public comments, items not on the agenda. A designated portion of the board meeting is set aside to hear comments on topics not listed on the agenda. A person wishing to speak must sign in and provide all information requested on the sign-in sheet, including the topic they will be addressing. The board president will call speakers up by name, announcing their time to comment. A time limit of 5 minutes per speaker per agenda topic will be imposed. The purpose of requesting such information on the sign-in sheet is to obtain the correct spelling of the name of the speaker and contact information which may be used for any necessary board follow-up. We have one today, Samantha Roddy Glenn.
Good evening, everybody. I stand or sit in front of you tonight, not as a domestic terrorist, as the government has so kindly begun to label us as parents. I stand in front of you as a wife, a daughter, and a police officer, but most importantly, as a parent of a child in this school district. A parent that is taking a stand for what is right in the best interest of my child. And I can only speak for my child in this manner, but I would venture to say that I'm not the only one with the overwhelming concern for the situation that the board is choosing to put these children in. I was informed that this district will not be going against the governor's state order. The board is choosing to stand with the governor who is reaping financial gain off of the struggles and burdens of our children. You are choosing to stand with the governor who is allowing a state's attorney to drop criminal cases against people who are running around this state, this area, and committing extremely violent crimes against society, and there being little to no consequences. You are choosing to stand by a governor who continues to tell you that the state is one of the highest transmission states in the country, yet when the numbers we can see are the complete opposite. You are choosing to stand by a governor who most recently stated that he will not change the mandate now because the weather is getting colder. This is Illinois. It shouldn't be a surprise that it gets cold. Most of all, you are choosing not to stand for the children of this community. You are choosing to let someone who has zero interest in long-term effects that this mandate is going to have on our children. And although every part of me has tried to find wiggle room to understand your position, unfortunately, I have been unable to, because your choice to stand behind the governor in this mandate will have long-term effects on the children that none of you will be there to see, because you have chosen to turn a blind eye and allow this to continue. The risk of wearing a mask in school for 6+ hours are far greater than the COVID risk, given that we now have actual data to prove how dangerous these masks are for our children. Increased predisposition for viral and infection illness, headaches, anxiety, depression, hypertension, chronic stress, fear, fatigue, decline in pH levels, and shortness of breath, just to name a few of the physical and psychological effects this mandate is having on our children. Are we willing to continue to risk the future health of our child? My daughter should not have to be fearful to go to school to remove her mask just in order for her to take a breath. And although children are resilient and they do adapt, they are experiencing a number of repercussions that they shouldn't be having to. The original 3-week window has come and gone, and the governor is changing his reasoning for continuing this mandate, not a law, to fit his narrative and to put money in the pockets of people who don't care about the overall well-being of our children. This is always going to be a new reason for not to unmask the children. I've had a conversation with Dr. Arnold, and although we have differences of opinion, there is a duty of responsibility to the children of this community. The only one that should be making the choice for my child is my husband and I. Finally, as a police officer, I have seen many disturbing things during my career, things that I will never be able to unsee. The abuse that our children are being put through has been one of the hardest things for me to watch as a parent. I feel that this group has failed when it comes to the issues of unmasking our children, and it's time to end this for the sake of them. Please do not force parents of this district to look for alternative education for our children. So I ask, what are you going to do to fight for the children of this community? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there is no closed session this evening. So we do not need to approve any closed session minutes. I need a motion to adjourn.
Washington.
Oh. Did we get a second, Sandy? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We are adjourned.